Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. The morning of the 1st of September was crisp and golden as an apple. As the little family bobbed across the rumbling road towards the great city station, King's Cross, 2 large cages rattled on top of the laden trolleys the parents were pushing. The owls inside them hooted indignantly, and the red-headed girl trailed tearfully behind her brothers, clutching her father's arm. "Look, it won't be long, and you'll be going too," Harry told her. It had been 19 years since the Battle of Hogwarts, which was now firmly cemented in wizarding history. Harry Potter, now a ministry official, and Ginny, an editor for the Daily Prophet, made their way towards platforms 9 and 10 with their children. Albus's voice drifted back to Harry over the surrounding clamour. His sons had resumed the argument they'd started in the car. I won't be in Slytherin. Dad, he keeps saying it." "Oh, James, give it a rest," Harry said, turning around. "I only said he might be in Slytherin, and he might, so—" James catches his father's gaze. "Fine." They approached the barrier, and with a slightly cocky look over his shoulder at his younger brother, James took the trolley from his mother and broke into a run. A moment later, he'd vanished. "Oh, you'll write to me, won't you?" Albus asked. "Every day if you want us to," said Ginny. "Well, not every day," said Albus quickly. "James said that most people only get letters from home about once a month." "Look, we wrote to James 3 times a week last year," said Ginny. "And you don't want to believe everything he tells you about Hogwarts," Harry put in. "He likes a laugh, your brother." "Right," said Ginny, clapping her hands together. "All you have to do is walk straight at the wall between platforms 9 and 10. "Yeah, don't stop, and don't be scared you'll crash into it," Harry cuts in. "That's very important. Best to do it at a bit of a run if you're nervous." "OK, I'm ready," said Albus. Together, the family ran hard into the barrier. Albus winced, but no collision came. Instead, the family emerged onto platforms 9 3/4, which was obscured by thick white steam that was pouring from the Scarlet Hogwarts Express. Indistinct figures were swarming through the mist, into which James had already disappeared. "Where are they?" squeaked Lily excitedly. "Are they here? Maybe they didn't come." "Oh, I think that's them," said Ginny suddenly. A group of people emerged from the mist, standing alongside the very last carriage. Ron Weasley, now running Weasley's Wizard Wheezes with his brother George, Hermione Granger, now riding high in the Ministry of Magic, working alongside the Minister himself, and their daughter Rose come into view. Lily runs hard up to them. "Uncle Ron! Uncle Ron!" Lily goes barrelling up to Ron, still tall and red-haired, who turned just in time to scoop her up into his arms. "Well, if it isn't my favourite Potter," he declares, swinging her around. Hermione, with her bushy hair pulled back into a bun and a warm smile on her face, approached with her daughter Rose. "Hello, Albus. Ready for your first year at Hogwarts?" Albus nodded, trying to muster a confident smile. "Yeah, I think so." Lily taps Ron on the shoulder, who's still being cradled in his arms. "Have you got my trick?" Ron stretches his arms out and looks Lily in the eyes. "Are you aware of the Weasley's Wizard Wheezes certified no-stealing breath?" "Mum," sighed Rose, "Dad's doing that lame thing again." "You say lame, he says glorious. I say somewhere in between." "Hang on, let me just munch this air," said Ron. "And now it's just a simple matter of, excuse me if I don't smell slightly of garlic." He breathes heavily on Lily's face. Lily giggles. "You smell of porridge." "Bing bang boing, young lady, get ready to not being able to smell at all." Ron pretends to lift her nose off. "Where's my nose?" "Ta-da!" Ron shows his empty hand, and Lily giggles. "You are silly." "So, you parked all right then?" Ron asked Harry. "I did. Hermione didn't believe I could pass a muggle driving test. Did you? She thought I'd have to confront the examiner." "No, I didn't," said Hermione. "I had complete faith in you." "Oh, as a matter of fact, I did confront him," Ron whispered to Harry, as together they lifted Albus's trunk and owl onto the train. "Everyone's staring at us again," said Albus. "Oh, it's because of me," said Ron. "I'm extremely famous. My nose experiments are legendary." "Well, there's certainly something," smiled Hermione, rolling her eyes. Albus looks up at his father and starts pulling on his robes. "What if I'm in Slytherin?" he whispered. Hey, and what's wrong with that? Said Harry. Well, Slytherin is the house of the snake, of dark magic. It's not a house of brave wizards. Harry crouched down so that Albus's face was slightly above his. Alone of Harry's 3 children, Albus had inherited Lily's eyes. Albus Severus, Harry said quietly, so that nobody but Ginny could hear. You were named after 2 headmasters of Hogwarts. One of them was a Slytherin, and he was probably the bravest man I ever knew. But just say, look, if it matters to you, the Sorting Hat will take your feelings into account. Really? It did for me. This is something Harry had never said before, and it resonated around his head for a moment. Listen, Hogwarts will be the making of you, Albus. I promise you, there's nothing to be frightened of there. James had returned and overheard his father. Oh, apart from the Thestrals. Watch out for the Thestrals. I thought they were invisible. You said they were invisible. Harry couldn't suppress a smile. Your brother's just teasing. So listen to your professors, don't listen to James, and remember, enjoy yourself. Ginny rested her hands gently on Albus's shoulder. Now, if you don't want the train to go without you, you should leap on. Hermione, with tears welling up in her eyes, hugs Rose. Remember to send Neville our love. Mum, I can't give a professor love. The children climbed on board, and the train began to move. Harry, Ginny, Ron, and Hermione stood back waving at their children until the scarlet steam engine disappeared into the distance. The station noise returned to the forefront, but Harry's mind was already far away, thinking of the incredible journey Albus was about to embark on. They're going to be okay, right? Ginny asked. Hogwarts is a big place, sighed Hermione. Yeah, big, wonderful, full of food. Oh, I'd give anything to be going back, exclaimed Ron, with a wistful look in his eyes. Strange, said Harry. Al being worried you'll be sorted into Slytherin. Oh, that's nothing, replied Hermione. Rosie's worried whether she'll break the Quidditch scoring record in her first or second year, and how early she can take her owls. I have no idea where she gets her ambition from, Ron quipped. Ginny turns to Harry. And how would you feel if Al is in... You know, Gin, we always thought there was a chance you could be sorted into Slytherin. What? Honestly? Fred and George ran a book. Can we go? Interjected Hermione. People are looking, you know. Oh, people always look when you 3 are together, replied Ginny. And apart. People always look at you. As the 4 slowly exit the station, Ginny stops Harry. Harry, he'll be all right, won't he? Of course he will, said Harry. The Hogwarts Express chugged along the tracks. The animated chatter of students, eager for the new school year, could be heard throughout the carriages. As Albus and Rose walk along the carriage of the train, the trolley witch approaches, pushing her trolley in front of her. Anything from the trolley, dears? Pumpkin pasty, chocolate frog. Her voice was warm and inviting. Albus's eyes lit up at the sight of the chocolate frogs, but Rose nudged him in the side and whispered, Remember, we need to stay focused. On what? Asked Albus. Well, on who we choose to be friends with. My mum and dad met your dad on their first Hogwarts Express ride, you know. What, so we need to choose now who to be friends with for life? Well, that's quite scary. On the contrary, said Rose, sounding very much like her mother. It's exciting. I'm a Granger Weasley. You're a Potter. Everyone wants to be friends with us. We've got the pick of anyone we want. So, how do we decide, which compartment to go in? Well, we read them all, and then we make a decision. Albus opened the compartment door and saw a lone boy with platinum blonde hair sitting by the window. He looked up, revealing a friendly smile. Hi, said Albus. Is this compartment... Oh, it's free, answered the boy. It's just me. Oh, great. So we might just come in for a bit, if that's okay? Oh, that's okay. Hi. Hi, I'm Albus. Hi, Scorpius. I'm Scorpius. You're Albus, I'm Scorpius. And you must be... Scorpius looked at Rose as they settled into their seats. Rose, she replied, her tone cautious but not unfriendly. Albus glanced at Rose, nodding, indicating this was a good choice. Hi, Rose. Would you like some of my fizzing whiz-bees? Asked Scorpius, handing out a small sweet bag. Oh, I've just had breakfast, thanks. I've also got some Choco Choc, pepper imps, and some jelly slugs. Mum's idea. She says, sweets, they always help you make friends. He stopped abruptly, thinking that singing was probably a mistake. Stupid idea. I'll have some sweets. Mum does let me have sweets, but which one would you start with? Rose nudges Albus out of sight of Scorpius. Oh, that's easy. I have always regarded the pepper imp as the king of the confectionery bag. They're peppermint sweets that make you smoke at the ears. Oh, brilliant. Then that's what I'll... Rose hits him again. Ow! Rose, will you please stop hitting me? Rose's face remained impassive. I didn't hit you, she said, her voice cold and firm. Scorpius watched the exchange, his excitement fading into a cautious understanding. She's hitting you because of me? What? Said Albus. Listen, I know who you are, so it's probably only fair. You know who I am? Albus looked puzzled. What do you mean you know who I am? You're Albus Potter. She's Rose Granger Weasley. And I am Scorpius. Scorpius Malfoy. The name hung in the air, heavy with historical weight. Rose's expression hardened. Your father was a Death Eater, she stated bluntly. Scorpius nodded, his face pale but resolute. Yes, my father was a Death Eater, but my mother wasn't. Our parents, they didn't get on. Rose looks away, and Scorpius, sensing the need to address the elephant in the room, speaks again. I know what the rumour is, and it's a lie. His voice tinged with both resignation and determination. Albus leaned forward, his curiosity piqued. What kind of rumours? He asked, gently. Scorpius glanced at Rose, who crossed her arms and fixed him with a steely gaze. The rumour is that my parents couldn't have children, that my father and my grandfather were so desperate for a powerful heir to prevent the end of the Malfoy line that they used a time turner to send my mother back. To send her back where? Asked Albus. Rose uncrossed her arms and interrupted. The rumour is that he's Voldemort's son, Albus. A horrible, uncomfortable silence follows. It was finally broken by Albus. Well, you've got a nose, so that should clear things up. Scorpius let out a relieved laugh, appreciating Albus's effort to lighten the mood. And it's just like my father's. I've got his nose, his hair, and his name. Not that that's a great thing. I mean, father and son issues, I have them, but on the whole, I'd rather be a Malfoy than, the son of the Dark Lord. The compartment fell silent again. Albus felt a strange connection forming between them. Rose, however, stood up, her posture rigid. Yes, well, we probably should sit somewhere else now. Come on, Albus. Albus looked from Rose to Scorpius. No, I'm okay. You go on. I won't wait. I'm staying, he declared, his voice firm despite Rose's insistent glare. Rose hesitated for a second, her eyes narrowing. Fine, she said, her tone a mix of frustration and resignation. She shot Scorpius one last sceptical glance before turning on her heels and marching out of the compartment, sliding the door shut behind her. After a few silent moments, Scorpius said, Thanks for staying. I thought I'd be eating these sweets by myself. Albus shrugged, a smile tugging on his lips. Oh, don't mention it. Besides, I only stayed for the sweets, he joked, eyeing the assortment laid out on the seat. She's quite fierce, said Scorpius, indicating where Rose had just been standing. Yeah, sorry. No, I like it. So, do you prefer Albus or Al? Scorpius pops 2 pepper imps into his mouth. Almost immediately, thin trails of smoke begin to curl from his ears. Whoa! Albus exclaimed, his eyes wide with excitement, as smoke starts billowing more dramatically from Scorpius's ears. Thank you for staying for my sweets, Albus, shouts Scorpius, not being able to hear the volume of his voice. Albus starts to laugh. The train slows to a halt at Hogsmeade Station, and the children depart, bounding in excitement as they look up at the towers and turrets of Hogwarts School. Albus and Scorpius follow the first years to several small boats, and after a short ride across the darkened lake, they're swiftly escorted to the Great Hall. In the Great Hall, the first-year students are bustling and chattering, and already quite a few are dancing around Albus. They're waiting to be sorted. "Albus Potter," whispers Polly Chapman. "A Potter? In our year?" said Carl Jenkins. "Well, he's got his hair just like him," said a third by the name of Jan Fredericks. "And he's my cousin," said Rose. "Rose Granger Weasley. Nice to meet you." A dirty, ragged old hat sits on a three-legged stool. Suddenly, it starts to twitch, and then the famous Sorting Hat bursts into song. "I've done this job for centuries. On every student's head I've sat. Of thoughts I take inventories, for I'm the Sorting Hat. I've sorted high, I've sorted low. I've done the job through thick and thin. So put me on, and you will know which house you should be in." The sorting ceremony commences, and eventually, "Rose Granger Weasley." Rose took a deep breath and went and sat on the stool, the old hat lowered onto her head. The world seemed to pause for a moment, and Rose closed her eyes, mentally preparing herself for the Sorting Hat's verdict. After what felt like an eternity, the hat declared, "Gryffindor!" The hall erupted in applause as Rose joined the Gryffindor table, her face alight with relief and pride as she was warmly welcomed by her new housemates. "Thank Dumbledore," she said. Next was Scorpius Malfoy, who with a calm demeanour approached the Sorting Hat and took his place on the stool. The hat deliberated for a moment before declaring, "Slytherin!" His expression was one of quiet acceptance as he walked to the Slytherin table. The reception was polite but reserved, in stark contrast to the enthusiastic welcome Rose had received. "Albus Potter." The hall fell into an expectant hush as Albus took his position on the stool. Like his father before him, as the hat was lowered on his head, all he could see was the black inside of the hat. This time, the hat took its time considering until, finally, "Interesting. Slytherin." There was a long silence, followed by various whispers. "Slytherin?" said Polly Chapman. "Whoa, a Potter in Slytherin?" said an amazed Craig Boker. Albus's face turned a deep shade of crimson. The Gryffindor table looked shocked, and even the Slytherins seemed unsure of how to react. Albus walked slowly to the Slytherin table, his steps heavy with the weight of his new identity. Scorpius beamed at Albus, clearly delighted. "Scorpius, you can stand next to me." Oh, right, yeah." The next morning, the students were gathered for their first flying lesson with Madame Hooch. The brisk morning air carried a promise of adventure, but for Albus, it only deepened his anxiety. Madame Hooch, a stern figure with sharp eyes, quickly took charge. "Well, what are you waiting for? Everyone stand by your brooms. Come on, hurry up." The kids all hurried into position beside their brooms. "Stick your hand over your broom and say, 'Up.'" Everyone said, "Up." Rose and Jan's brooms sailed into their hands immediately, but others weren't so lucky. Come on, I've got no time for shirkers. Say, 'Up, come on, up, like you mean it,'" barked Madame Hooch. Everyone, except Rose and Jan, said up. Brooms start sailing up, including Scorpius's. Only Albus is left, his broom twitching on the ground. There's a giggle from the rest of the class. "Oh, Merlin's beard!" exclaimed Polly Chapman. "How humiliating! He really isn't like his father at all, is he?" Cole Jenkins added, "Albus Potter, the Slytherin squib." The rest of the lesson was just as disappointing for Albus, who clearly not inherited his father's prowess on a broom. Albus trudged back to the common room, feeling a mix of exhaustion and frustration. Scorpius fell into step beside him, offering a sympathetic smile. "Hey, don't let it get to you. Everyone struggles first," he said. Scorpius's struggle would be the shadow of that rumour that was whispered behind each corner, and Albus would be his very own flesh and blood, the boy who lived, who'd already set an impossible path to follow. A struggle would define the year, it seemed.